Hi friends, and welcome back. This is day 4 of Tingmas, where I review 5 new release Christmas movies on Netflix and give you my thoughts and feelings on them. So today's I'm very excited about. So this is actually the sole children's Christmas movie that I watched and will be reviewing. There are so many really fun children's Christmas movies out there, but again, a lot of them are like classics like Elf, but this one is a new release one, which is called A Boy Called Christmas. Before going into this, I actually didn't realize that this was a book adaptation, or sorry, a book to movie adaptation. So I was kind of sad that I didn't get to read the book first. Normally, I'm that type of person who, if I know that there is a book first, I do prefer to read it before watching the movie. But it is what it is. I thought, I saw the movie, I thought it looked really cute, and I was going to check it out regardless. So that's something to potentially do at a later time on my own. So Boy Called Christmas is a children's Christmas adventure movie that essentially is a telling of an origin of how Christmas came to be.
It started with a boy called Nicholas and a summons from the king.
So it is a story within a story type of framework, and I'll get a little bit more into that later, but that's essentially the bare bones of what this movie is about. This movie stars a lot of really great actors in it, so I was really excited to see that. So I'll go over the ones that I definitely recognized when I saw them. First is the incredible Dame Maggie Smith, who I'm sure many people know as Violet Grantham if you watched Downton Abbey. She was so amazing in that. And also, personally, I am unfortunately no longer a fan of Harry Potter due to the transphobic comments that were made by J.K. Rowling and what she continues to maintain. So I generally am not really someone who do not promote Harry Potter at all on this channel, but I do have to admit that this is a role. She played Professor McGonagall, is very iconic in this role, so that is definitely something that I do want to put out there as where you might recognize her from, because it is just that big. And actually, a couple of other Harry Potter alums are also in this movie. Jim Broadbent, who some of you may remember as Professor Slughorn. He was also in this movie where he played the king. And you also have Sally Hawkins in this movie, so she plays like this like elf, like not exactly a queen, but like an elf leader in this movie. So she's also the movie that you probably most recently may remember her from, or at least like what I remembered her from, was The Shape of Water. But she was also in a Jane Austen movie, and I don't remember which one it is, but she was very well known for that role as well. And you also have a lot of other like really cool actors. So I think it's Michelle Huisman. So you probably may remember him as Game of Thrones. So he was the guy who was recast. Or he was the person who got cast as, and I can't remember his name, but like Daenerys had that like love interest that she had for a while, who became, I think, like one of her generals. So there was like originally a different actor who was playing him, and then they recast him for still kind of unknown reasons. So he's in that as well. And then we also have a great cast of like children actors who are also in this movie, who did a very great job in this too. So I thought like the casting was really great. You had a really nice, well-rounded cast. You got some very, very seasoned actors, and then also some very talented child actors. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I wasn't totally sure like how this movie was going to turn out. I feel like especially with like kids movies, like sometimes it's like amazing. It's super heartwarming, and like there's a cute message behind it and lessons learned for people of all ages, or it can turn into something that's just like or just like very, very weird. And I'm happy to say that this movie falls into that first category. So the movie starts off by taking place in London, and this is where Dame Maggie Smith's character, who is known as Aunt Ruth, she gets pulled in as a last-minute babysitter to this family where unfortunately the mother, who was her niece, passed away at some point. I think it was pretty recently. So they're reeling from this like, grief. They're not feeling in the spirit to like celebrate Christmas. So it's kind of depressing at the house. And then unfortunately on top of that, the dad is getting pulled away and being asked to handle some like last minute work thing like on Christmas, which like totally sucks. So that's why they needed to get a last minute babysitter. Off the bat, it with that scene of like the family grieving, I do think that it is like, while it was pretty unexpected, to be honest, for a children's movie, I thought it was a good move because I think what it does is acknowledge something that is unfortunately very much a part of a lot of people's holidays. So while we do try to be like, it's marketed as being joyful and happy and all of that, you know, all of those things, for a lot of families, it's also a time where it's very difficult because if you've lost a loved one, you know, the holidays are also, you know, when everybody else is gathering together, it's also a reminder that if you've lost someone, that they're not there with you anymore. And I think that's such an important thing to, you know, teach children and younger people, and honestly, even adults, that's a reality of what's going to happen. And the older you get, the more and more that reality is probably going to be the case for you. So I thought that was really great that they, you know, start off with that. And then moving into like when you meet with like Nicholas and his father, and they're just surviving. And unfortunately, the kingdom, especially with like winter being around, like they're not doing super great. Like the king is doing pretty well, but like the common folk are not. Nicholas's father is someone who's concerned about money, which is completely understandable. Like he kind of gets called out like by his son. He's like, why do you always care about money? Why, you know, and things like that. But the truth of the matter is like they're poor. The king is like, what can we do to bring, you know, like to help make the situation in the country better? And people like make, you know, very real good, like practical suggestions like universal healthcare, living wages, you know, things like that. But of course the king ignores that, which is unfortunately true in real life. And he goes,
bring back a spark of magic to give us hope.
And we're like, oh, well, And then also in true like elitist fashion, he's not going to go out and look for the hope himself. He's going to send out the common folk and offer a reward for them to bring hope around, I guess. And, you know, then they're going to go out and do the work for him while he sits and waits back, and hopefully something will come of it. So that's so essentially like that's kind of what, you know, is the catalyst of this story, is everyone is trying to look for whatever this vague concept of hope or vague hope is. And so of course it's realistic that his father, who's concerned about him and his son's safety and survival, he's willing to go on this super dangerous journey to hopefully get rewarded so that they can be financially stable and hopefully set up for life. So I think that's, you know, I'm glad that they didn't shy away from that. I also think that, you know, in a lot of movies, characters who are concerned about money, especially like, you know, characters who are poor, are often demonized and like, oh, you know, all you care about is money. When the truth of the matter is, you can't, at least with how our society is currently set up, it's just not you need money in order to live, and being concerned about it, especially as someone who's poor, is something that makes sense. And I'm glad that, you know, was, while, you know, a little bit called out by Nicholas, but he's a kid. He doesn't really know that or understand that. It's still something that I'm glad, like, wasn't demonized in the movie, and you understand why his father is so intent on making sure that it's going to be okay for them. And you see that, you know, see these kind of more serious themes kind of go throughout the movie, throughout another big plot in the movie. So I totally forgot to mention, so it kind of turned into like a story within a story within a story. The third story that's in this is that there was a young girl who went out exploring and then kind of went, you know, too far and like couldn't get back home. And so she ends up stumbling into this magical realm called Elfhelm. Elfhelm is where basically all of these like magical elves live, and nobody's really like found it before, and not, you know, most people aren't really sure it exists. Again, within Nicholas's family, it's a story that he set, which by the way, Nicholas's mother in the film is also no longer alive either. So he, you know, mentioned several times that this is a story that she told over and over again. So it's a very special story to them and their family. And, you know, because of like this big opportunity to try to go find hope and get rewarded for it, his father is going to take that risk and trying to see if he can actually find Elfhelm. And with that, we then start on this like long magical journey, difficult. So first, like, his father leaves, and Nicholas is unfortunately left with his father's sister, who's played by Kristen Wiig in this, his Aunt Carlotta, who is not great. Nicholas also like finds this mouse like early on in the movie, and he's like determined to teach this mouse how to talk, and names this mouse Mika.
You ready, old friend?
Born ready.
You can talk.
And like eventually like there's like a point where Nicholas gets to where he so his like dad wears this like basically what we consider like the traditional Santa hat. He wears that through most of the movie until he ends up leaving on his journey. And when, Nicholas and his aunt are like clashing and not getting along super well, and honestly, she's not taking very good care of him. And like one day, like she, I think like almost throws the hat into the fire, and he realizes that the inside of his father's Christmas cap appears to be a map to this mystical Elfhelm.
It's a dangerous journey to Colourful. Under the moon, past the sleeping giants, up the pointy mountain.
So this kid who's like, honestly, he's like, he doesn't have much to lose at this point. Decides like, okay, I'm gonna go try to find Elfhelm, hopefully find my father, and, hopefully we'll be able to, find this hope and solve everything. And he sets off with his mouse Mika moving forward, and so they go off on their journey to find Elfhelm. And once we finally do get to Elfhelm, he's expecting to find this like super happy, joyous, like amazing like community, and then it turns out that it's pretty somber and pretty depressing due to a very specific reason as to why that is the case. And then this is where we also meet like Sally Hawkins' character.
Who is that?
And I also kind of like that as well, because again, it kind of shows that the holidays, while supposed to be joyful, happy, positive time, can also be a time of year where it can be very stressful and depressing, and it's hard to, and at times it can be very difficult to keep up this image and feeling of trying to be happy all the time. And and to a point where people feel like, oh no, okay, is this something that we really want to do? Essentially, like, the movie then goes forward with like how when he gets to Elfhelm, his experience there, and a bunch of other events happen by the time we get to the end of the story, which is also at the point where Aunt Ruth finishes the story. I really liked how the rest of the movie progressed. I think they really did a great job of balancing like these fantastical but like realistic elements through it. I'm glad that, like, sometimes in movies where you have a lot of, you have a fantastical element into it, sometimes like the movie can lean into it a little bit too much, and then it becomes all about the special effects and not really about the story. And I'm really glad that here they really did a great balance of doing both. And the design, like, Elfhelm's gorgeous. Like, I thought it was super cute. I love the different like colorful costumes that they had. I guess like compared to like the rest of the world, like Elfhelm seems like this really nice, just like classless, raceless type of society, where everyone is, you again have that like casual diversity. It's, everyone, it appears that most everyone is expected to be treated equal. So like that was like cute to be able to see that. And I like the magic like that the elves also possess as well. I thought that was really cute. And we also have like another character that shows up that's called she's the Truth Pixie, and she also kind of I feel like we don't get to see a lot of characters that kind of can be like, I love mischievous characters, and I think girls don't really get enough of a chance to be like that mischievous character, and they really let her be mischievous in this movie. And it's just like also like further compounded by the fact that she's a truth pixie, which means she always has to tell the truth. So she's always kind of like finding ways to like bend the rules or things like that. Like at the very beginning when we first meet her, when Nicholas like so they end up like in prison together. at one point, and which is how they first meet, and he's like, you know, why don't we like work together and get out? And she's all like, I don't care. Like, it's like, I don't really, you know, whatever. Which I thought was like really, you know, which was nice to see that. So I really liked really just like this whole movie was like very fun, very heartfelt, and more importantly, I think this is just like, this is a Christmas movie that like, I almost never cry during movies. That's an incredibly difficult feat to achieve. Like, I'm just not a crier, and this movie I teared up quite a few times, like, during this movie, because, like, the bigger themes and lessons that they were that they were promoting throughout the movie were just very well done, and you could really feel it. And I love that. I love children's movies that can be fun and fantastical and, you know, adventurous, but at the same time, like, throughout, you definitely feel that you're, you know, learning a deeper lesson. And I really do think, especially with, I feel like I still think the biggest theme of this movie was kind of dealing with grief and, you know, finding joy and happiness even while you're grieving, I think was such a great lesson. And again, something I think is just so important, and I'm glad that they didn't shy away from that in this movie. Children definitely do believe should be protected in many, many ways, but death and, you know, things like that, like losing a loved one, like those are all very realistic parts of life that can really happen at any age. And you know, it's hard to be prepared for it, but I think the sooner that you start having these discussions with your child that these are things that can be a reality, the better that you'll prepare them so that when something sudden does happen, that they can, you know, it's not going to completely ruin their lives. It's something that they will know, accept, and again, like with them, as the movie shows, at the end, you still are able to find joy and happiness and be in Christmas spirit, you know, within it. So I thought that was a really wonderful, amazing point to make. I think this is a great movie. Like, I know it's technically a kid's movie, but I would recommend it, honestly, for anybody at any age. I think this is a really great movie that if you are sitting around with your whole family after like Christmas dinner or something like that, or holiday dinner, depending on what holiday you're celebrating, you guys all just want to watch a movie that's going to be appropriate for everybody, this is definitely a fantastic choice for that. And I also would definitely recommend it if you're just like, if you're someone who likes kids movies, and if you're someone who, you know, wants a movie with heart, this is definitely a fantastic movie to watch. So I gave this movie a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really great, and I would highly, highly recommend it. So I hope you found this review helpful. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content from me, you can hit the subscribe button. Again, this is my 4th movie, and my 5th and final movie review will be tomorrow, and so you can go check that out when it comes out tomorrow. But thank you so much again for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Bye!